you remember the first story that was so spellbinding that it drove you to break the rules and stay up all night? To keep reading, keep listening, keep playing? So good you forgot your life and lived there?
So good that the moment it ended, you asked yourself, what next?
Welcome to the Flore. Our goal is to take you back, take you deeper, to explore and understand more, and relive that childlike wonder.
Join us as we dive deep into humanity's greatest stories, no matter how they are told, through books, movies, television, even games.
One of us does an in-depth research on our topic. One of us is familiar with the topic.
And one of us knows nothing. So the right questions will always be asked and will be addressed for anyone coming into the topic, regardless of how much you know.
Enjoy another world, another adventure, another spellbinding story. Join us on the Flore.
Welcome to the Flore. We are beginning our journey into Season 3 of The Witcher. This is maybe not highly anticipated, but the highly debated season of The Witcher. This is Henry Cavill's last season, and we're going to dive into the lore points here. And so you can just go deeper if you want to. The beginning of this episode is with Geralt and Cirilla and Yennefer. They're on the run from the various people hunting Cirilla. If we jump back to the end of Season 2, if you'll remember, there's a council of the heads of the Brotherhood, Tissaia and Vilgefortz, and several of the kings and queens of the northern kingdoms. As a group, they decide that Cirilla is more trouble than there's worth, and they should just get rid of her. Individually, they've all kind of got their own plans that they want, but they do decide that as a group. So there are several organizations looking for Cirilla. So we do have Reince, the Fire Mage, and Lydia, who we talked about how, with her face burned off and stuff. You finally see that at the end of Season 2. We have King Vesemir of Redania, who has got his own plans. He's at all the meetings with the Brotherhood and everybody, and says he's going along with things, but he's definitely got his own plans, which we've seen with his spy master Dijkstra and the sorceress Philippa Eilhart. I think we've only seen her in owl form in Season 2.
She appears at the very end.
At the very end, okay.
To talk to the other guy.
So that's another group looking for Cirilla. Nilfgaard, of course, has been looking for her for a very long time. And so they're on the run from all of this. They move from house to house. People find them. Geralt kills them. They move on. It seems like you wouldn't need to, though. It's like they found us. We killed them all. We could just stay here. But they...
And the elves want them now, right? You want her now.
So the elves now know about her. They're also hunting her. A lot of people trying to get their hands on Cirilla.
Yeah, but guess who's on Cirilla's team?
Geralt.
Geralt and Yen. She does. And she's kind of on good terms with Geralt right now. Those two are so silly.
And Yen has her magic back.
Yes. So as they move from place to place, we kind of see them becoming a family, right? Cirilla goes hunting with Geralt, and she loves it and has fun, and then she spends days at school with Yennefer trying to learn to use magic, and it's frustrating.
Just fun with Geralt, does not have fun with Yen. Yeah, that sounds...
At one point, things have been going really well for some time, and then they are invited to attend the Belletin Festival. This is a festival within the Witcher world.
Dude, just a little point here. They've been training for 6 months of antisocialness, so... Siri's like, dude, we gotta go.
Well, she's also a princess. She grew up in a palace with lots of parties. That was her world.
Yeah. So, dude, we gotta go is probably what a princess would be taught to say.
So she convinces them to go. So Belletin, it's a festival within The Witcher. It's a May Day celebration, and it's based on the Celtic festival of Beltane. Now, they sound almost the same, and you almost have to see them written out to see that there is a difference there. But it is essentially the same festival. It begins on April 30th in the evening, and it goes into May 1st. It's a spring festival. It's about the celebration of fertility. And so a lot of times there will be marriages that they get married that evening on May 1st, and then they celebrate and procreate into April 30th into May 1st as part of that celebration. So it's a very common thing to do. And now in the books, it is mentioned that Yennefer is born on Beltane, so they do mention that in this episode as well, that is when she was born. And Geralt, he doesn't know when Cyrilla's birthday is, but he does like make a guess based on how old she is and when Pavetta found out she was pregnant. He's got a good guess, and he figured it's around this time.
I hear it's horrible to have a birthday on a holiday.
Yeah, I had a friend whose birthday was on Christmas. He's like, I never get birthday gifts. He's like, people just call it both. He says, but it's not both. It's just one.
Just a little bit less of each on the same day.
While they're at the festival, a jackapace attacks. So this is a creature created by Netflix. So we can only kind of speculate on it. One possibility is that this is a creature from the sphere of the elves because it can smell elven blood, so it's just something that has always kind of hunted and preyed on elves. But I think it's far more likely that this is a creature from the College of Rissberg. So if you remember way back, we talked about how there is this College of Mages where they create all kinds of stuff, including new monsters, right? Within the books, we see that they put these little plates on their experimental creatures as they keep them in their cages. And there are several times where Geralt fights a monster, kills it, and then finds a little plate on it. It was from the College of Rissberg, and it just got out.
Like they screw in a metal plate or something?
Yeah, because that's it. Like it's they want the number on it so they can look up in the logbook. How did we create this? What is it supposed to do? What's it actually doing? Right? And
What's it actually doing?
And I guess on some of these branding doesn't work, so just heal over or something. Like you have to install a plate.
Plus, just like depending on like, if you brand an animal in the Witcher universe, it could get attacked by all sorts of things that could leave something that looks like a brand on it. Like metal plate's gonna look like a metal plate.
that's true. So, and somebody could mess with your brand if you've got numbers and stuff on it, and somebody decides to like start, messing with you. They could get in there. Whereas the metal plate, it'll be pretty clear you scratched something off.
Yeah, it's like a serial number on a gun.
Well, but they could just install a new plate,
Oh, it depends on where it is.
Yeah.
Wait, so back up real quick. So are they normally successful in the whole, this is what it's supposed to do, this is what it's actually doing kind of thing? Or is that like a 50-50?
So, Australia is a good example, right? Like, Australia, they introduced rabbits into Australia as a food
Yeah, like
source.
6 of them.
And
In the late 1800s or the very
and they
early
went
1900s.
rampant. They were just overrunning everything, and like technically,
Yeah, within 50 years, they had over 1 million.
so like there are fences all across the entire continent of Australia intended to just keep rabbits out of certain areas because there's so much trouble. And a lot of times that's how the creatures of the College of Rissberg go, right? Like I think we talked about, like at one point they created a creature to hunt rats, and they released it into the sewer, and then the creature was feeding on the rats, and then it got big enough at one point it decided, what's easier to eat than rats? Baby humans.
Orphans.
Yeah. So started doing that. So that's That's a lot of times how things go with the creatures of the College of Rissberg.
So if you were to do that, do you still get a passing grade at that college? Like your final project is making a rat eater, and then it starts eating babies.
By the time it starts eating humans, you've already graduated.
You've already graduated with valedictorian. This kid's amazing.
So yeah, so that's how things go with the College of Rissberg fairly often. Yeah, so like I said, Netflix created this creature. We don't know anything about it, but my best guess is this is a College of Rissberg creature created during the the wars with the elves to hunt down elves. Right? That's why it can smell and hunt elven blood. So the guy who owns it, his name is Veldhook. There is nothing outside of Netflix on him. The only reference I could find for Veldhook in the Witcher universe actually came from a Polish site where I couldn't read what it was about, and my best guess is that the Polish TV show that did The Witcher had used this name as well for somebody, and that's where it comes from. And so I couldn't find anything beyond it. So then we'll jump to
Wait, there's a Polish TV show, Witcher?
yeah. They created that maybe 10 years ago. They made that. So
Oh,
Witcher's huge, dude. Witcher's huge.
yeah. I just
think
had no
about it.
idea.
The Witcher is a global fandom, right? Between the games and the Netflix series and everything. And it
And the
came
books,
from
yeah.
Poland. So as big as it is everywhere else in the world, it is 10 times that in Poland. That is their author. That is their mythology. This is their claim to fame.
Yeah.
So like everywhere else, it's a rat eater, but in Poland, it's a child
So
eater.
yeah, they made a TV show, The Witcher, a long time ago in Poland. Okay, so
Okay.
we'll jump to Redania. So King Vesemir, his plan in hunting down s3e1 is that he wants to marry her, and by marry her, he gains the rights to Centra as well as Redania, essentially doubling his kingdom, right? That's his plan. Now, they're having trouble finding her. He's got Dijkstra and he's got Philippa Eilhart helping him, well, not helping him, doing the hunting for him. He's frustrated. They're not getting results. And so he decides to have his brother, Radovid, join them. And when we first meet him, he seems kind of like an idiot, right? But by the end of the episode, it's pretty clear he's very clever. So there's a quote he has that I think is really good insight into his character. And he goes like this. They say it's the game of kings, that chess teaches one to think strategically. What a load of rubbish. Both sides have identical pieces, and the rules stay invariably the same. How does that mirror real life? You know?
Okay, yeah.
He's like, this doesn't teach you how to play the game. He says, you weigh things in your advantage as much as possible, and you ignore the rules and hope other people will follow them. Right? Like this. That's how this guy thinks about the world. And you see that he is brilliant in the way he manipulates Jaskier and, you know, the way he tries to get the things he wants. So Netflix has done some changes here. In the books and the games, Radovid is Vesemir's son, whereas here he's his brother. And so that's going to change a few pieces in the backstory. But so I'll just tell you the backstory we do have, because Netflix doesn't release backstories, right?
Right.
So he has two older sisters who both studied at Aretuza, and then they would bully him, and they would use magic to do that. So he hates mages.
Oh.
And we can kind of get that feel from him here. He definitely does not like working with Philippa Eilhart, and he aggravates her intentionally on more than one occasion.
Just because she's a mage.
Just because she's a mage, yeah. So when he
He's
was
magist.
younger, he's magist. There you go. So when he was younger, he was betrothed to s3e1 of Centra, but the deal fell apart before the two ever met. So he's actually never met her in person, but at one point they were going to be married as a way to expand the kingdom of Redania. And that might kind of be where Netflix got the storyline to have Vesemir try and, drag her back to Redania and marry her. And then there's a bunch more, but anything more than that will be spoilers. Although we don't know if those would be spoilers because Netflix does their own thing. And we'll take a break here. Okay, so we have been mentioning at the end of our episodes recently about the treasure room, how, as Aaron likes to describe it, in the Flore we go deep into things, but in the treasure room we kind of go wide. And we wanted to give people who have never been in the treasure room a little bit of a sample. So going forward, we'll probably be putting in little bits and pieces here. So here is a small clip from the treasure room. We hope you enjoy it and are interested in learning more in there. And because Geralt brings it up so much, it becomes a big theme within Netflix. And so I think they have either changed and or left this piece of the lore out. Because within the Witcher books, we talked about like this children reproduction is a huge thing. After World War I and World War II, there was a huge shortage of children across Europe because so many men had died in the war. And so women, some of them didn't want to have children out of wedlocks. Some of them simply couldn't find a man to be with. And so there was a shortage of children that way. And you had this in both wars. And then you moved into this time period after World War II where the economy of Europe was just broken and no one was having children because everyone was just barely able to survive day to day, right? And so Poland, along with everywhere else, would have gone through this same time period where having children was insanely important and talked about all the time by these countries because they're like, we lost a lot of people in the war, especially the European countries lost a lot of civilians. So it wasn't just all bunches of men in the war. They lost a lot of women and children, right? So they were just short on people, period. And so they were like, if we don't do something, we're dying out as a people, as a nation, as a culture, everything. And so we see this come up in Sapkowski's writing about his Witcher world, right? The elves are dying out.
Welcome back. We are talking about the first episode of season 3 of The Witcher. This is the final season with Henry Cavill. We have been discussing, just re-looping back in from what happened in season 2. We've just been touching on some main points of season 3. Geralt and Yennefer have been training Cirilla. They finally go to the May Day festival. They get attacked by a giant armadillo. Joe, is that what you'd call it, or would you give it a different name?
They called it a jackapace.
Yeah, giant armadillo.
Yeah, giant armadillo.
And this is the thing that can smell elf blood?
Yeah, it can smell elven blood.
Okay.
And so now they've got to find a way to not only not get Cirilla eaten by this thing and captured, but also find out who's chasing them down and stop them. So they come up with a ploy. And that's kind of where we left off.
Yes. So we will meet a new character, Gallatin. I don't think they ever mention his name in the episode. So this is the elf played by Robbie Amell. He seems to be kind of the leader of the Scoia'tael, or the squirrels, right? He's leading these little ambush on various caravans. He's fighting for Nilfgaard, because as he says, if Nilfgaard wins, all elves are free everywhere. And Francesca's view on this is very different. Be like, human kingdoms come and go. You're a very young elf, right? Doesn't matter if you win and all elves are free under Nilfgaard. That may be only 40 years of our 1,000, right? It's not reliable. And so Francesca never reveals her plan to him, but he does know she's after this girl. And, that's Francesca's bigger plan, that she is the great weapon forged by our ancestors and will wipe out the humans. That's her plan.
Okay.
So anyway, he's frustrated with her for not getting the support he needs as far as troops, as far as weaponry. Just, he's very angry at her for not helping him in what he's focused on.
Right.
And so she tricks him. She decides, hey, I'll tell you I'm going to help you, and instead you're going to help me, right? So
Wait, a woman tricked a guy?
People trick people. I don't think there's anything
I was just saying, that's
about...
what happened here. Women are more clever than guys. I don't know if you knew this or not, because they always trick you, but...
So Cirilla, Yennefer, and Geralt, and with the help of the Askeer, they set up a trap. They're trying to get all these people hunting Cirilla to come so that they can take him out and end this. And they choose a place called Sherowed. And so this was once an elven palace. The elves have destroyed it, so it's just in ruins. And they did this to prevent the humans from using it as they retreated. And we've seen this with a multitude. There's several places in The Witcher we've seen before that are ancient ruins of an elven palace or fortress that are destroyed. And so it was very much a plan of the elves as they retreated, where they would destroy these places so that the humans couldn't use them.
Kind of like burning a bridge after you cross it.
Yeah, very much. So they, like I said, that's why this place is in ruins. And it is also kind of the famous last stand of the elves. So the elves had retreated significantly, and Geralt tells a little bit of this story, but there's some other important elements here. So there's this giant statue of this elf who led their last stand here called Alerin. And what is really important about Alerin's stand is that after the elves had kind of retreated up into the mountains and the caves, she was able to convince a group of them to come down and fight the humans again. And it was mostly young men, but most importantly, there were female elves, there were older elves, but it was all of the young men of the elves who came down with Alerin, and they all died at s3e1. And elves can only produce, the men can only produce when they're young, and so all of the men of reproducing age died in the battle with Alerin. And that was what ended the elves' ability to produce elves. They could produce half-elves with humans, but they could no longer make elves.
Okay, this is that event.
This is that event, yeah.
Oh, man.
They had lost a lot of elves before this, but this is where they lost
The final.
all of the reproducing elves that they had, yeah.
Do you
It's a
think
bad
that
rap.
the elves thought of humans like we think of bunnies in Australia?
Yes, very much. They're like, how?
It's only been 200 years.
Yes,
They live for a really long time, so it's like a month for them.
So they set up their little trap here. Reince comes, which they're expecting because they know Reince is after s3e1. The elves come, which they're not prepared for. And the dwarves help Geralt fighting them off. Francesca's brother dies.
Also, key point here. Key point to me, not actually like a key point. Jaskier is helping out the dwarves. And so when he helps them out, he actually protects a few of them, so he earns some respect from the dwarves.
Earn some dwarf points.
Yeah, some dwarf points, which are like half the size of human points. They're worth more, but they're half the size.
Reince escapes, but Geralt does see where his fortress is while he's trying to hunt him. And then in the end, they decide they will split up. Yennefer needs the help of the teachers at Aretuza to teach s3e1, and Geralt wants to hunt down Reince, and so he doesn't want to bring s3e1 with him. So they go their separate ways. But once again, remember, the Brotherhood runs both Banard and Aretuza, and their overt plan is let's just kill s3e1, get rid of that problem. No. We know they've all got their secret plans, but that's their open expression. So that is where it ends. So I think it's an interesting point. Geralt talks about the battle at s3e1 and Alerin, but what he mentions is, you make a bold last stand and they build you a statue. He says, but if you're neutral and you survive, no one does that for you. And he's just kind of pointing out this silliness of people to celebrate these terrible decisions and events rather than celebrating people who made good decisions and lived long, unhappy lives. That there's this inconsistency there. But, so as Geralt tells the story of Alerin in s3e1, he either doesn't know or doesn't mention this is the end of the elves' ability to have pure children. And so I think, it's very possible Netflix made that choice to leave that out. And so my question is to you, do you think that was a good idea or bad? Or maybe why or why not leave that out? Because for me, that is why this story is so important. This is not just another battle. This is not just another piece of the war between elves and humans. This is a pivotal point that changes the future of an entire race.
This is the beginning of the end for pure elves.
It's the beginning of the end for pure elves, yeah. And that piece of the story is left out in Geralt's telling. So, again, do you think that was good idea, bad idea, or maybe why? Maybe they're planning to save it for later or something.
All right, so my answer, I will tell you in the treasure room